Yay! Yay! It's live. The channel wasn't set up yesterday for live, and there we go. It is recording. My name is Jeff Altman. I'm 70, and this is going to be a channel about becoming an older man. And my thinking is for most of us who are getting older, we're in a situation where we're put out to pasture. We're pushed out by the society at large. We're past our prime. We are beyond ripe. And if you don't believe me, tell me about the next commercial that isn't about the Pens or a retirement center where someone who's older is featured. So I thought I would create a venue, particularly for men who suffer even more by being pushed out. And perhaps women do as well, but I'm just not a woman to know what that experience is like. So I'm going to speak of my own and hopefully create a place where other men can come and look at how to evolve from being old men to being wise elders. Because that's the idea that I have. Instead of being the person who's out to pasture, being the person who serves others, has a place in the society, and frankly elbows their way into wanting people or people wanting to be in their presence rather than being an annoyance. Today I thought I would talk about what it was like becoming a father, which, if you look at this face, I know you know I'm not 24. As I said, I'm 70 at this point. And I became a dad as an adoptive father. And my wife and I married when I was 48, 49, or just about to turn 49, and she was 39. And, we fell in love, decided to have a child, and it was not going to happen biologically. The infertility problem was mine, not hers. And we discovered it in a very funny way. Testing had occurred, and she, although as a woman her eggs were considered old, the issue became whether or not I had the infertility problem. So in a bit of bravado, I said, "Hey, maybe it's me," never thinking in a million years it would be. So contacted a doctor who gave me a prescription. And, the idea was to do a sperm test. So I'm at the doctor's office on the west side of Manhattan, figuring I've got to get it to a lab. And they said, no, you have to do it at their place. So I call up their office and said, no, you can't do it here. You have to bring it to us. Not in our bathroom. What the hell you do? So I had an appointment to be there at a certain time. I want to say 1:00 because that's what my memory says. So I went from the doctor's office on the west side of Manhattan to the east side of Manhattan. I took a walk that day and I stopped for lunch. I don't remember where, but it was a place maybe 2 blocks or 1 block from where the lab was. Had lunch, went to the bathroom, and now it's my time for the specimen to be created. And took care of this. And while I'm finishing up, there's a knock on the door. Excuse the vibration. It vibrated my desk. And I zip up and open the door. It's a police officer, and he's there to use the bathroom. And suffice it to say, kind of embarrassing. So I walk over to the doctor, to the lab, and say to them, I said, I've got my sample here. It's great. When was it? Oh, about 3 minutes ago. With them looking kind of puzzled at me. Hand it over, go home, get the phone call a day or so later telling me that it was my problem. And suffice it to say, it felt horrible. Horrible. So we started to look at alternatives, and in vitro became the first option. And it was tough. Tough on my wife, tough on me. Um, it was hard. And I'll come back to that on another session that I do. But I'll just say that eventually we got to the point of looking at international adoption. Domestic adoption was not going to work for us. We didn't want to have parents in our life or biological parents in our life. So we decided international adoption was going to be the better avenue. So this is in probably July of 2001. And my wife is off on retreat. And now we're looking at an international adoption and looking at a variety of places. Now, a neighbor of ours had adopted a child from Romania who was gorgeous, but Romania closed their borders. We were concerned about Russia because of fetal alcohol syndrome and decided that that wasn't an option. China, my wife wanted me to have a son. So not an option because they make girls available. Someone recommended Kazakhstan to us. I think it was the woman who ran the agency that had handled Romania for our neighbors. And recommended Kazakhstan. And she said, I'm new there. I'm still learning. And I was away for a weekend. I said to my wife, why don't you find out more and see if you can find an agency that has experience working in Kazakhstan. So I returned from from a weekend with a group that I've been involved with, and came back and she said, "I found them. They're great. For them, they do international adoption. They focus on Kazakhstan, and they're well connected into the country. For them, it's a Christian mission for them. They're completely serious about it. They really care about the kids." And they were well connected. So we decide on Kazakhstan, and now it comes time to identify a child. And she has said, I think I found one on their website. I'm not going to mention names at any point. Everyone's entitled to privacy. But we found one on their website and, started to get attached to them. And my wife goes away for... Now, let me back up for a second. We're in New York. It's now August of 2001, and 9/11 happens. And I'm in New York City, and I've got to get myself out of there. And I start to do the long walk back from New York to get out of the city. Now, I'm in Midtown Manhattan, so I wasn't near the towers, but I did see the second tower fall. So I leave my office in Midtown and start walking to a subway just to get myself the heck out of Manhattan. Because normally I would take the Long Island Railroad to Long Island where we lived. And I figured, let me first get out of here. Got some cash in an ATM because I was concerned about whether money would be available. And got some cash, got to the subway. Subway in New York was shut down. I now realize I'm probably in trouble with Penn Station. So I continue to walk to Penn Station. It is, of course, shut down. And then start turning around and walking toward the 59th Street Bridge. Walked over the bridge and got myself to Queens. It was a horrible day. As we're crossing over the bridge, there are thousands of us there trying to get to the other side, looking to our right and seeing the smoldering ash where the towers had been. Got to the other side. There's no phone service, no cell phone service. And I start sticking my thumb out to see if I can hitch a ride. There was a foreign journalist who picked me up and took me to Rego Park, Queens, where I figured minimally I could get uh, to my in-laws from there who lived in Howard Beach, Queens, and they'd come and get me. I'd start the walk. I'd find someone willing to help me to get there, and got to Howard Beach. No, I'm sorry, backing up. No Howard Beach. I have no idea why I said that, but got there and was able to find a payphone since cell service was out. Called my wife, who was waiting in her office in Jamaica, Queens, where she came to get me and take me home. Now, about 2 weeks later, she's off on retreat, and we've seen a video of the young boy, the baby, who would become her son. And he's very, very cute. All babies are cute, except the one on Seinfeld that Elaine thought was ghastly, but very cute. And the nurse in the video that we saw turned him around, and it looked like there was a tumor on the back of his head. It was so disappointing. And I remember tossing the video and my wife retrieving it a little bit later. She went off on retreat and had contacted the adoption agency that we were being represented by, who was kind of surprised that we saw something like that because they really did get to cherry pick kids. And they said, "Would you mind if we had someone look at him?" No. And there was a woman who was stuck. I know I'm a little out of sequence here, and I apologize. I'm working off of memory. A woman who had been in Kazakhstan picking up her own baby, who was trapped in Canada and had to drive back from there to Florida. And she had checked in on the child we were interested in. And my wife was off at a retreat, and I spoke with her. She said, "I saw him, nothing wrong. Absolutely fine. Terrific. Kind of surprising given what we saw in the video, but happy to hear it." And then the next shot came about a week and a half later. I'm off running a weekend workshop, and my wife gets a phone call from the international pediatrician who's been asked to review the video to see if there's anything wrong. So she's got medical documents, she's got the video, and my wife calls up and she says, "I'm with someone now. I'll give you a call back. There's something not quite right." Suffice to say, my wife's heart drops. And moving ahead, she called a second time. Eventually, the doctor gets on with her and says, "I looked at the medical records, and his head grew very, very quickly, abnormally quickly. Now, it could be that his head grew abnormally quickly, or one time they measured it here, and another time they measured it here. And you'll never know what happened. So you'll have to make a decision." I'm away. I'm at a place with this bad cell service. I get up to the highest elevation I can get to on a Saturday morning to have a conversation with my wife. And she's in tears, not knowing quite what to do. And my response was to say, one thing I suspect is doctors around the world are pretty much alike, and that they don't have the same concerns that we do. So I'm not going to let an uncaring doctor get in the way of our adopting our son. And we moved ahead. A few months later, we're on a flight to Almaty, Kazakhstan. Actually, it's first to Frankfurt, and from Frankfurt, we're going to Almaty. We have a layover at an airport, at the airport in Frankfurt for a few hours, where we're going to connect with another couple. And at the airport, we're waiting around for hours. and we're carrying around a lot of money in cash because Kazakhstan only accepts cash. They don't accept a check. And I know I'm carrying half of it in a pouch around my neck. My wife is carrying the balance, $30,000 between the two of us for this trip in cash. And when we're at the airport in New York, this is like a week after the first shoe bomber. So we've got to do the take the shoes off bit for the first time, or like the second day that this had happened. So um, just amazing. That memory of getting to the airport early, expecting long lines, and then nothing. So let's go back to Frankfurt. We connect with the other couple, and very sweet people from the Plain States, and they were adopting two kids. They had been interested in our son, but we got there first. And we go on this long flight from Frankfurt to Almaty, Kazakhstan. The flights were scheduled in a way where Kazakhstan tells you what time to arrive, and you have to work your flights backwards from there. So we arrived at 10:30 at night, I want to say on November 20th or 22nd, 2002. And 10:30 at night, and we get off the plane, and it is cold, and it's a small airport. Even though the plane was a large plane, the building itself was small. And we walk to the terminal where we spot the guys with the fur hats, the red star in the middle of it, carrying weapons. And they're there as representing customs. Now, we were told something that was interesting. They said, put the money in envelopes, like individual envelopes, and seal it with a U.S. postage stamp. I said, why? What's with the postage stamp? And they said, it'll look official to them. And it got to a point where we're at the airport and we're at customs and they want to see everything you got. And I show them the envelopes with the postage stamps and they're waving. No problem. Don't have to show us anything. Meanwhile, with the other couple, they didn't do that. They had to count out every dollar, which all of our money had to be in new bills because the government only wanted it in new bills. Go figure. So we're taken by a driver he's the driver for the woman who represents this adoption agency in Kazakhstan. And she's got a new Mercedes. And our stuff is loaded into the back. And we've got a ton of stuff because we had to bring stuff for the caregivers at the adoption place, which they call the baby house. And he brought us to our apartment and helped us get upstairs because it was a 6th floor walk up. We'd had a choice when we booked our trip, and that was we could stay in a hotel that said, Americans are here, bomb this place, because we're 2 hours 50 miles from Kabul, Afghanistan. Or we could stay relatively incognito. I have to say relatively incognito because we always stood out because our clothes didn't look like local people's clothes. So he helped us walk upstairs, 6 flights of stairs, with help us bring all our crap up. And we checked in, and the next morning he came to get us in his car, which was a Toyota, and drove us there to meet our son. Now I'm just going to get the picture of the first meeting. Bear with me one second. I'll do the reveal in one minute. But here we are at what they call a baby house. And we had to trust all the way through this process. A few months after 9/11, in a partially Muslim country where we're scared because there really is no U.S. embassy to speak of there. This is a little bit after the old Soviet Union broke up, and at that time there's no U.S. embassy there, so we're operating blind. And Sasha picked us up the next morning and drove us. It was snowy, and he started to chat with us, and he said, we've got, no, that was a different day. I'll deal with that another time. So we are taken to the baby house, which we can see pretty quickly. All the buildings there look kind of old Soviet style, which kind of has that German look to it. Like whenever you see the movies from Nazi Germany, that's what these buildings look like, except it was the Russian version of that. And we walked in, and we don't speak Kazakh or Russian, and their English is that kind of English, very simple. And we waited in a room that had blinds on them that were from Disney World. Little Mickey and Minnie Mouse on these plastic blinds, linoleum floors, couches that had naugahyde, and then comes the moment where a door opens up, and they bring in the baby, our baby. And we stood there in disbelief. And then I walked over to him and took him in my arms. Let's see, I got the glare off. And took him in my arms, and they handed me a bottle to feed him. And it changed my life. It absolutely changed my life. It has never been easy. Like with any kid, there's always stuff that goes on. But he's a terrific young man now. And what I've learned a lot from him about trust, about care, and I've applied it in the workplace, which I'm going to talk about in a different video. But today is about becoming a dad in a different way. And for those of you who consider adoption, bless you. It's a different way, and it's a profound way to do things. Hope you enjoyed this. I'll be back soon with more. In the meantime, be great. Take care.